Hello everyone, my name's Octavia. I'm going to be talking to you about marketing to Gen Z and becoming a part of youth culture. I'm from a company called Depop. I'm currently art director there, so I create a lot of the content, make videos for all our marketing campaigns. So today I'm going to talk through some points of how to market towards this Gen Z and then how we've done it by showing you some examples. Just quickly, I'm going to give you an overview of what Depop is. Depop is a mobile app. We're predominantly on iPhone and Android. It's a peer-to-peer shopping app. Anyone can open a store for buying and listing and selling. It's also a great place to find new designers or pieces. There's a lot of designer vintage on there as well. But yeah, predominantly buying, selling, and like coming and discovering new styles. Just a brief history. It was founded in 2011 by Simon Beckerman. He's Italian, and he initially came from Pig magazine, which is an Italian magazine based in Milan. And he also founded with his brother Retro Superfuture, which is a sunglasses brand. They can be found in Selfridges and Liberties and lots of online high-end places. We've now expanded into London, New York, and LA. I actually started originally when there was only 7 of us working there with 100,000 users, and now 5 years on, there's 10 million users, and there's about 170 people at our offices. So now I'm just going to show you a video, give you a brief introduction onto our app.
Echo, 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 echo.
Yeah, so we're a mobile app, and we call ourselves a mobile marketplace. This is definitely where one of our successes have been, because our main focus has been shopping and selling online. As you saw in the video, we have 10 million downloads. We actually reached 2 million yesterday, but when I made this, it was 10 million. And the main markets are in the UK, US, and Italy. And 80% of our users are actually under 25. So we usually say like 16 to 25 is our main demographic. As you saw in the video as well, in the next 24 hours, 450 people will open and interact on the app 3 million times. 65,000 items will be listed and 15,000 items will be sold. Each user mainly opens the app around 6 times a day and has 10 minutes of usage. So that's in the app world, that's very engaging, and we often have lots of young people say they're addicted to it, and that's like something that trends on our social media when people talk about our app. Our mission is empowering creative minds, and this is something that we really do. I think for marketing purposes, it's important to stick to that so that you your users understand like what your main aim is, and all your marketing content should align with this. Just a quote from Vogue. This was Vogue US. It says, "All these millennials can't be wrong. Why Depop just might change the way you shop." And by this we mean we're trying to bring a normal market, like you have the night markets here where people interact, you're haggling for prices, and in a market where eBay and Amazon are very product focused and item focused, we're trying to make it more style focused and more one-to-one. So you're shopping from individuals, not just a huge market full of products. So just to, if you don't know who Gen Z are, I'm sure most of you do, but one of our main focuses is our community. These are actually lots of our sellers that are actually on the app here. Our community is very young. Most of them actually, when they become successful, do this full time. So we have 18-year-olds that have chosen not to go to university because they're reselling vintage items and making enough money to live on, which especially in the UK and US and places like New York and London is very hard. So they're doing well. And then now I have some slides to, sorry, I'm a bit nervous, some slides to talk about our success and why we are a success. So I think number one is our product. As I said before, we're focused mainly on lifestyle rather than individual items. And we also are trying to make the second-hand market more desirable than buying brand new, especially in younger generations. But it also attracts people who are starting brands so they can experiment more. eBay and Amazon kind of limit you to being able to show off your brand. And Depop gives young people an opportunity to kind of create a personality and play around with your brand. The layout is a lot like Instagram, so you can have your own profile picture, your own bio, and listing is very easy. It literally takes 20 seconds. Also that we're social, so the app allows you to like, comment, and follow people, and it enables people to create small communities of like-minded people. So much like Instagram, you follow who you like, and you like products that you also are intrigued by. And you can save things. So either people use it to come and buy, and they'll save items and curate almost like a Pinterest board of what they're liking, or sellers are coming out and portraying their brand this way. The third reason is we're a cultural vector. So we are a marketplace. We're not the ones necessarily making the trends. Our users come on and they're super creative, and we're trying to amplify what they're creating. So this is an easy way for us to be able to see what's trending, because we can obviously see what people are listing. So I think it's really exciting that you can see smaller underground street trends because our users are listing them. So how to become a success. So I think the main thing is finding your niche market. So whether you're a brand or you're a designer, find the people that it feels most organic to you to talk to. Get out there, networking and using your products. I think the main reason I aligned with Depop was so well because I had my own shop online and I used to resell vintage. So it was very natural for me to talk to people who was doing the same thing. I'll go on to talk later about influencers and partnerships and letting them be a part of creating, being part of that creative input when you're creating content together. I think giving people freedom, as well as our users, for example, with the platform, giving young people, Gen Z, freedom to create is something that I feel like works really well for us. We grew mostly through word of mouth. When I first started, there wasn't a lot of users, and I was local to London, so I would literally go to shops, talk to them about Depop, but I would mostly spend a lot of time, as you could do on Instagram, searching and recognizing people that you might know that are local to you, and messaging them through Instagram or the app and asking to come and talk to them about it, show them how to use it. And I think this kind of taking the experience offline at the beginning really helped us grow. So yeah, becoming part of youth culture. I always say, when talking to Gen Z, it's better to make a movement, not become a moment. And also not be afraid to try things and make mistakes. I think in the very early stages of Depop, there was a lot of trial and error. We did some campaigns that didn't work, and I don't think that that's anything to be worried about. I think this whole generation are very used to experimentation, and yeah, I think it's okay to make mistakes. So who are Gen Z? They're the internet generation. they're super advanced in technology, so they're very used to being online, so it doesn't take them a very long time. When we were actually building the app, we used to actually sit with Simon's mum and like see how she could use it, because if she could use it, then anyone could use it. And they want to make, they're super big on individuality, as I said before, super creative. They want to make their mark. I think like now when I look back at it, when I was at school, you always had to copy people and be wearing the same trainers, and I see now in the people that we're hosting our app to, like how big they are and standing out from the crowd, like wearing different items, like starting new trends, and generally being like out there. They're always on their phone, like taking selfies, and it's a lot different to when I grew up. But yeah, so they want to also make a difference. I think they're the most socially aware people. I think they're way more socially apt than I was, or engaged, like they're much more politically engaged. So I think like sustainability is a big thing. They want to know where their products are from, where they're made, like how much they're worth. Lots of people just don't go out and spend money. They want to know the story behind your brand. But unfortunately, they are the generation with the shortest attention span. That's something that we've learned over time. So even things like event invites, Instagram posts, like you have to be kind of weird, and they do have to be engaging, and we do recommend moving towards video for this, and this is why my presentation does have a lot of videos, because that's what I spend my time making. Here's just a video. Now you can get to meet some of the sellers. They talk about their style, their interests, and how they use the app. So I'll just play this for you.
If I had to describe my style, I'd describe it probably as a bit 90s.
Mainly 90s and early 2000s vintage design and sportswear.
I'm selling mostly 2000s girly clothes like baby fat, mode mitzvah.
I opened this shop, so Nude Lagoon, in January, and from then it's been my only job, like my only source of income. It just started off really well.
Yeah, I didn't think it would kick off like this. I've gained like 10, 11,000 followers in like 9 months.
I realized that I just had like heaps of clothes sitting in my wardrobe and very little money living out of home, and that maybe there was something I could do about it.
I moved to London with no money, anything, and I couldn't speak the language. So I started selling my personal clothes on Depop, and it helped me a lot because, I didn't spend my time to have a random work.
For me, Depop's the most creative place to sell as well as express yourself.
I get to see the things that other people find, the other things that people think are cool, the way that other people put outfits together.
I think I saw somebody else on Depop doing fabric painting. I was like, I'll just give that a go. And then I put something up and it sold within an hour.
It's fun to like find a piece that's, in its final days, and then like work on it or change it, add a cool design that we like, bring new life to it basically, and just add something different.
A lot of stuff that's broken, I rework my sewing machine, so like nothing's ever dead. Like you can give it a new life.
I feel like you have a lot of freedom within Depop. You can pretty much run your shop the way that suits you.
It provides you with just an incredible number of opportunities just to make money literally from your bedroom.
It's so about putting your stamp on it. That's what I love. Like you can just make it your own. People buy into like you and your style.
I feel like I'm part of the community because I know how to list something, how to sell it, when to edit it, the hours, everything. So I think like I work on Depop somehow.
I know that I'd really like to carry on with Nude Lagoon. Like, it makes me really happy. I feel sad about how happy it makes me.
Vintage clothing is one thing that I've always been passionate about, and through Depop I can make a real living doing something that I really like.
My dream is to sell and to make something bigger. I want to do something more like me.
It's given me more of a direction. I was so worried to finish uni before, but now I feel like I've actually got something. Whereas a part-time job, you're working for someone else, this is like, I'm working for myself, and it's actually putting it into something that's hopefully gonna go somewhere one day.
Yeah, so there's some insight into some sellers, and they all sell full-time on the app, so that is their job. And I think they only sell on Depop, actually, so they don't use anything else like ASOS Marketplace or eBay or anything like that. And if there was a few people there with their own brands, and then a few people there that resell vintage items, especially high-end vintage items. So now I'm just going to go through some points of why I think it's important for marketing towards Gen Z, and then I'll show you examples of how we've executed it on those points. So the things I'm going to talk to you about are getting their attention, practicing what you preach, working with influencers, treating them as individuals, I put practice what you preach twice, create something that means something and tell a story. So getting their attention, as I said before, they're the social generation. Everything that happens is a social experience that is documented and shared. That's why, social media is such a big thing, and especially the movement of live, like Instagram stories or Facebook Live, has been a really big thing for us when we're marketing to add into our campaigns. And then as a brand, you need to become a trendsetter and a leader within your virtual community. So I think that's important when you're hosting to a group of people, that you talk the talk. Like, that it's very easy to spot when you don't know what you're talking about or it doesn't feel holistic to you. So how do we do that? How do we get their attention? So keeping on top of digital trends, social media needs to be relevant and up to date to your audience. We've had someone who does this full time for about 2 years now, who literally sits and follows trends on Instagram, just because, as I said before, you need to be up to date with everything, like what's funny, and everything changes so quickly. So it's been beneficial having someone full-time noting down what's trending, what people are talking about, and how we align to that. I think getting their attention is hard sometimes as a brand, and to make life easier, we often build content with other brands or influencers who are relevant and part of the space you're part of. So we've worked with Converse, we've worked with multiple influencers, some YouTubers, and we really push to let them hold the reins on that content and talk about us rather than us talking about them. And then stand up to stand out and get their attention. So I think when there's something that you need to own, own it. If something goes wrong, it's good to communicate it and not hide away from it. Here's just some examples. We've been playing around with our social media in the last 6 months. We used to produce a lot of the content just ourselves, but we noticed that physical Instagram posts were working better when we became more internet meme and posted things that people were also posting themselves. So for example, this Nike Air Force Ones, these were actually on Depop, but they got 15,000 likes and 341 comments, which is, as a product, is actually quite a good engagement rate for Instagram. I think other people like us, like Etsy, usually get around 500 to 600 likes. So getting 15,000 is quite a big deal. And also we posted this the other day. It's also something that's being sold on Depop, but it's just funny. It's a bag of air from a Louis Vuitton shop. But yeah, you can see it was super engaging. We only posted this the other day, last week. And stuff like this, I think Instagram physical posts are better to have fun with because you can't link to anything. The only thing that you'd write would be link in bio. And I think we try to avoid a call to action in physical posts now, just because we saw that it wasn't engaging, or things like shop this now, or we tend to leave that for Instagram stories so that they can quickly swipe up but stay on Instagram. So just some social tips. I actually got these from our social media manager, but I used to run it but not anymore. So have fun and be topical with your captions. As I said before, like the weirder the better, in my opinion, with the bag of Louis Vuitton hair. Avoid call to actions unless it's a paid ad. We found in general posts across our social, as I said before, weren't engaging. And yeah, so tend to stick that stuff in Instagram stories. Get involved on topics trending across social within your community. For example, like the Nike Air Force Ones. I think we found this, people talking about it in another group, so decided to find stuff relevant for us and post this. And watch other people who are influential within your community. So I know that our social media manager, as I said before, spends a lot of time following people, and then when you follow someone who may be influential, it will show you, I think when a drop-down bar comes down, and you can follow who they're following, and we found this super useful to get in touch with them and like stick to communities that related to us. So usually we find someone that was already using the app, already talking about it, follow them, and then go on to follow other people that were also following them. And yeah, follow who they follow, which I just spoke about. So the next point is practice what you preach. So as I said before, Generation Z are more politically and socially conscious than ever before. Influencers will only do business with companies whose values they share. I remember like 5 years ago, I think influencers were only just becoming like a business. But people used to do things for a small amount of money, and now I think we found that people want to do something that works for them, and they have, I mean, influencers, it's a brand in itself, like they promote themselves, so I think, and being genuine is really important for their following. So I think we've often found that it doesn't work working with someone totally random that doesn't make sense for your brand, because it will come across ingenuine, and it's very easy to spot, and I think they see that as well. So yeah, we tend to just work with people who are either already using the app or it's within a community that they've heard of it. Most people in the UK and US at the moment that we outreach to work with either are using it but they're inactive because they're too busy, or they're using it actively. So that's something that I think is important. And they have a keen eye to know when something is authentic, which is kind of what I've been hitting on. I think now that there's so many paid ads, I mean, in the UK you legally have to say it's a paid ad now in the top of the post on social and YouTube. But I think in lots of countries like the US you don't have to still. But I think it's very obvious when an influencer is talking about your product and they don't actually use it or like it. And we tend to work with micro influencers that are up and coming rather than macro, because this is something that we've noticed is more authentic for us. So yeah, become a part of a movement. I'll show you some examples in a second. Be an educator in your field. So as we are marketing to such a young generation, lots of the things we do either will come with documentaries, or if we're talking about the brand, we want to know the history of the brand, just because we've noticed that people are more engaged when they can see the whole picture. And then being consistent with your communications. As you can see, like even my presentation is very branded, and this is actually, we rebranded 2 years ago, and we've seen a huge difference in the way we speak and the imagery that you portray, especially when you're working or collaborating with other people. We don't often have like our logo everywhere, just because I think that is unauthentic, and it does definitely look well like it's paid. But we may encourage them to use our colors, like our style of photography, the sellers that we're interested in. So yeah, that's just something to take on board if you are a brand or you're selling a product yourself. I'm just going to show you an example of a campaign that we did in, I think it was May, June this year. This was a brand awareness campaign to increase awareness that we're not just a second-hand app, and we're not somewhere, because obviously everyone can open a shop, but what we really wanted to push was that there are actually some really unique items on there. So this campaign, we worked with a lot of people from industry. Actually, we worked with a lady a girl called Helen Kirkham, who's just come out of university and she works with Adidas. She's a shoe designer. And we also worked with a book collector who's very well known in the UK, especially he stocks Dover Street Market with fashion magazines. So each person that we worked with was a part of that fashion network and then donated an item that had a story and was a one of a kind piece. So let me just show you. We did a little promotional video, so I'll show you this so that you can get the gist of how we did it. But so yeah, we took 15 sellers. We got them to all create content for our Instagram stories where they talked about the product and why it was rare and one of a kind. And then they also had content that they would push on their social media, so their network of followers. And bear in mind, they were all like fashion insiders or worked in the fashion industry. So we were hoping, and it did work with this, that other people would notice and download the app and potentially come and work with us on collaborations. And then we also took this event offline. We created a small limited edition zine, and we had a launch party in our LA store for press. And I think it's really important for any campaign that you take things offline. So yeah, I'll show you the kind of promo video that we created with the people.
Look, don't wanna see us live.
I'm a footwear designer and artist, and I make bespoke sneakers and other accessories out of discarded shoes that I've collected from recycling centres. So when people recycle shoes, if you don't recycle them in a pair, then the odd shoes become useless to the recycling centres and they can't reuse them. So I go over there, pick loads of shoes, then come back to the studio, clean them, deconstruct them, and then I have my box of pieces, and that's my raw material that I can use for the products. What I've made for Depop is a sneaker keyring. For me, the keyrings and my process in general is really trying to make a counterpoint to the way that we currently consume products and also the way we think about newness of products. So how can something be new and be special but be something that's already been disregarded and thrown away by somebody else? It's so easy to buy something mass-produced, and I think if you can buy something that is one-off, then it's just something very personal and special to you that you can own, and I think that's nice to have.
I'm David Owen and I run Idea. We are primarily a bookstore, and we find that we sell them to people who are creative. They are then surrounded, as I am now, like by the best ideas of the last half a century. Brilliant creative work, and then these people look at their desk in front of them and they try and create something that's great in their own world. So for the One of One campaign, we have the first issue of ID, which was published in 1980. They screen printed the covers and they hand stapled the issues. You cannot find or buy another copy of ID number 1 right now anywhere in the world. Every copy that we've seen, and we've maybe seen 4 in our whole 20 years of being involved with selling books, they're all different because the covers get printed differently.
My name is Chris Hay, and my brand's Prologue. Ever since secondary school, in class I would just doodle, mostly because I'd be bored in class, but then I always felt like I would use these one day. Sometimes I'd plan up my design, sometimes it's just straight freestyle kind of thing. So I got this jean jacket when I was abroad. It was fitting me, but I was like, I wanted it to have more on it. At first it was like, the thing I created, I didn't really want to give it away or put it up for sale because it was like so sentimental to what was going on in my life, because it was just what was in my mind at that time. To be honest, a lot of the stuff I do are like one-offs in a way of like, I don't intend to make it again. I think one-offs are really important because it's literally what a creator or a designer feels or their thoughts at that certain time. it's great. It's more appreciation as well. It can't be made again.
Okay, so yeah, I don't think I mentioned as well each of those products. So we promoted this video, we got them to share on their social, and then they were available to buy in-app, and they all sold out within, I think it was an hour of listing them after this campaign was launched. So that's really exciting for us. So now I'm going to talk about working with influencers, which we do a lot of. We actually have a whole team dedicated to this now at Depop. Mostly we actually seek out people that we think are relative to our style and as a brand, and we actually do managed accounts, so we get them to come in, take photos of them wearing the product, because that's something that we actually saw with influencers, is that they didn't have the time to create a shop and list items and post items. So people like the Man Repeller, we manage her account, and lots of people in London that are a bit smaller now. Yeah, I can't think of any other ones off the top of my head, but yeah, we basically manage about 20 accounts at a time, and these are specifically picked for the year towards our marketing goals, so people that we want to align with at that time. But yeah, so it's important to, we also work with influencers on other content. We're actually working with a PR company in London called Village, and we're working with young designers and musicians to create shops and then create an event to launch their shop. And we're doing that with 20 people, and we're getting them to actually work together on the event. So I think there's 4 events in total. So it's been a nice way for even them to meet, network with other people that within their industry. So yeah, these are some ways that we work with people. We create videos with people. We do photo shoots with them to go across our social as well. But mainly it's, I think the things with influencers, you've got to give them something that they want and need, and that's how we've become a success. Like, most influencers use it naturally for them who have the time, but it's also, you know, as they are busy, we understand, but we still would like them on the app. So there are different ways that we work with them. I think don't risk having a shallow narrative with campaigns. I think take risks, like push the person you're working with to really create something interesting. And I think to make it holistic again, like it always works to work with something that's more natural for them, which is something that we tend to do. And yeah, as I said, give them the reins and lean on them for creative input. They understand their following better than you do, and although we've aligned ourselves aesthetically, we don't always know what works and is engaging for their followers, and they do. So we do tend to let them have creative control. So how do we do it? So as I said before, follow key contributors and become part of that community. Target groups of influencers from the same circles rather than individuals. I mentioned before, like following them, seeing who they're following. Building long-term relationships and grow together. I'll show you in the next few slides, like a couple of girls that we've worked with in the past. Actually, across the 4 years, some of them we've actually weren't influencers when we started working with them, because we work with our sellers as well as influencers. So one of them was actually just a seller, but she had a really distinctive, like, gothy style, and she's from LA. And she's now a huge influencer. So it really, but we have such a great relationship, so we don't pay to work with her. She's, like, very dedicated to our community and app, because that's where she started. And it's, you know, I think that's why it's good to build those long-term relationships, because it's more natural, and yeah, it works better that way rather than going through agencies all the time. Yeah, so when we work with high-profile users, we like to refer to them as a partnership, because we view all our talent as actual partners. So rather than it being like an influencer posting an ad, we'd rather make it a bigger thing and like work together with them, as I've said before. And we're interested in working with creative people who offer a point of view that complements ours rather than just a lot of following. So when we do work with influencers, there'll usually be a creative, maybe there'll be a photographer, an artist, a designer. You know, look, I'll show you in the next few slides like an example. I'm just going to talk you through like an example of a campaign we did this year. We worked with YouTubers and Instagram influencers from London. The channel's called Kyra TV, but this group is called PAQ. So they actually contacted us to do some work, but we developed this idea together, like for a need that we had, which was maybe to gain some of their audience. And their whole YouTube channel is focused on fashion trends and how they dress as individuals, so like styling. So I think, and they're all male, which is, and again, something that we were looking to build on this year, is grow our male demographic, because a lot of them are women on Depop, but we do have a lot of men now as well. So we asked them to produce or work with us, alongside us, to produce a video where they firstly talk about the app and then show people how they use the app. They all had a Depop account anyway and all shopped there anyway, so it was quite a natural thing for them to do. But how we made it engaging is we created a competition where people could also join in with what they were doing. I'll show you the video so they kind of explain what we asked them to do, but basically we gave them each money to spend on the app, and then they had to pick an outfit in 45 minutes, and they obviously show them, which you can watch the whole episode, it's 20 minutes long, on YouTube, but I've just taken a cut. What I do always recommend is when you work with YouTubers that they talk about your company or product within the first 30 seconds, because this is when people often click off after 30 seconds if they're not going to watch it. So as long as that you've got the mention in there, then people will hear you. So yeah, the campaign had two objectives. One was to increase brand awareness, and two, for driving engagement. And as you'll see, because we asked people to be a part of this competition. So here's just taken from their YouTube channel a cut of where they talk
lovely
about
folk
our
over
app.
at Depop have each given us a £500 voucher to spend, so we each have to find ourselves one summer outfit. So we each have 45 minutes and 500 quid to get our outfits, then heading over to Paris Fashion Week, where it'll be judged by Scott.
I think summer outfits is just an outfit that is practical for any occasion in summer.
You could technically get a jacket as well, because in Britain there is no summer.
The only bright days I see is when Elliot smiles.
What's your summer look, Daddy?
Loafers, trousers, Fred Perry top.
Depop is the sport. I don't know anyone that doesn't actually use Depop. Actually, my mum doesn't use Depop.
I've bought a couple Astro shades of Depop. I bought a soul of Depop.
45 minutes, £500, Depop.
So yeah, and then they got their friend from Paris Fashion Week to judge their outfits. It's a fun video. I definitely recommend watching it on YouTube. And then part of the competition, we created a separate URL which was linked in the down bar, and we obviously promoted from our end as well. So this was mainly for their viewers and our current users, where we would ask people in 44 minutes to create an outfit. And then we selected 5 people where we bought the outfit for them and sent it out to them. This was really engaging. 22,000 outfits were created within the 2 days that it was released. And the video actually has, I think, over 800,000 views. So if you can imagine, 800,000 people have now watched our app that maybe watched about our app that maybe didn't know about us before. So we've definitely found that YouTube and Instagram are a huge way for us to gain downloads and I think it comes across quite natural, especially for these guys. They're all different styles, and this is what they do generally. They do a lot of challenges. They'll go around with like New York vintage shops in the shop, but that's just something that they do naturally. So it wasn't totally random to their viewers, even though we paid them to talk about us. And just going back to building long-term relationships, This is a girl that actually started as a Depop seller. She's been on there for like 5 years now, so since the beginning, really. And we really, from the offset, like saw that she was very us, like dressed very uniquely. Her shop was shot great. Like she was very active, listed items every day for sale. So we always get in touch with our sellers when they're active. We have a whole team as well that's dedicated to now talking to our top sellers especially, but all sellers. These two pictures are actually 2 different times across 5 years that we've worked with her. We actually threw her 21st birthday party, and it was like a market, and then we had a party afterwards. And then this photo is just like a styling campaign that we did, and we also used her in our first out-of-home campaign, which I'll show you as an example later on in this presentation. But she's now actually a really big YouTuber. I think she has like 500,000 followers on YouTube. She has 225,000 followers on Instagram. And mainly her content is about her Depop shop. She actually does styling videos across her YouTube, and then you have to purchase the outfit through the app. But this is just something that she's created. We've not asked her to do this, and it just shows that, you know, nurturing people like this who are like unique and stand out from the crowd can benefit you in some way, because, you know, we are a platform. We're not an individual, and having people like this talking about your brand is highly beneficial for us. This is another girl she's actually from Manchester in England, but she's actually so we've worked with her as well consistently over the 4 years. She actually originally started as an Instagram influencer, and she, you know, was popular on Instagram. She came on Depop. We noticed that she was using Depop, and then she's a creative herself. She's a stylist and photographer, and she's recently working with some smaller brands, designing collections for them. But we've worked with her with Converse, where she talked about her style and Depop, and then we recently also highlighted her as one of our key sellers, and she was part of our out-of-home campaign as well. So it just shows you that you can work with people and help them grow, and they help you grow. Treat your audience as individuals. So Gen Z consumes and creates more content than any other generation. So that's why, you know, there are points like get their attention, like be a bit different, be a bit weird, and get your followers to make something so they're excited to share. So I think in most of our campaigns, we either ask people to create content who we're working with, or we give them something to create. And so, for example, like the Kyra TV thing, at the end of the website where they created their outfit, they could share their outfit with the campaign I'm going to show you now. Like, we created content for them to share and asked them to share on Instagram story. So yeah, get influencers to share things on their social media when working with them. Creating competitions always work. I've already showed you that we do that quite a lot with either, you know, the one-of-one campaign where we drop things for a specific amount of time, or we gave away money or vouchers to spend on the app. And then after that, we'll get them to share. And then, yes, so this is the campaign I was talking about a few seconds ago, where this was our first out-of-home campaign. This is where we did ads on the subways of New York and London. And then we also, so the main concept was that we used our sellers' bios. We kind of wanted it to be intriguing and a bit weird, and not just like download our app, you can buy and sell there. We wanted it to portray like personalities, which is obviously, and the individuals, which is at the heart of what we do. So we took people's bios, so it is a bit weird, but it went down really well, and it got people talking about it and sharing it and being like, it had that what the hell are they talking about kind of thing, and people could Google then the usernames that we were sharing across the ads, and and then see, it would immediately, the top search would be their Depop shop. So I just wanted to give like a brief map of how we usually work with influencers. So these are the people that we worked with on the campaign. So on the top right, there's this model called Adgally Worldwide. She actually has a shop herself, and we didn't ask her to come on board. And she's very active on Depop, selling her clothes. So we decided to work with her as a global influencer. I talked about Internet Girl already, so she's like a mid-ground influencer that we work with and is known in the UK and US because of our YouTube channel. Then we have people that are relevant to like their communities, so they're super social on the app. So we found these as sellers, but they are also influencers. So Betsy Johnson, who I just spoke about, Duke's Cupboard are a shop in Soho in London, a vintage shop. They're very well known in London, so that's why we chose to work with them. Dynasty is actually a model from New York. And then It's Jovel is kind of like an Instagram, popular on Instagram, and also he is local to New York. So these are kind of like our localized talents that we chose. And then we have like people who are creative, so maybe musicians and stylists. This one's Radamiz is from New York. He's a rapper, and then Tia For You is a stylist in London. So kind of like industry people, sellers that we like, medium ground influencers, and then a macro for global. These are some of the assets we shared. So as you can see, like these are actually, we didn't write these bios, these are actually the bios for people's shops because they use it a lot like Instagram, so it kind of portrays their style or personality. And then it would have their username for the app, so people would be on the tube. You get internet in the tube in New York and London, so you can automatically search and be like, what are they wanting me to do? And then they would come up with their shop. These were, we gave assets to the influencers to share on the campaign launch, so it all looked the same, they're all part of the movement. And then this is what I meant by when you use people's assets themselves, so all of this was their content. We didn't write the bios for them, we just made it red and black and put it on the tube, and it was their own shop. So it, especially when we use localized people, so for example Betsy Johnson in London or Radamiz in New York as the rapper, people would be on the tube that knew him, and you know, like, feels good when you see my real hip-hop winning. So this was his friend that shared this, and then Betsy's friends are like sharing things, and that they would share it themselves when they saw it. And these were on the tube for 2 weeks. So for 2 weeks we had people, the content that we'd put out there for everyone to see, they were then sharing across their social media. One, because I think it was really cool that they were part of it, because they're not huge influencers, most of them, or sellers. And then secondly, because they were local to where we were advertising, then their friends would know them and also be sharing. So yeah, just an example of how to get people excited about being in part of a campaign. So then, telling your story, make sure that your brand has a clearly identifiable online visual aesthetic. You should go and see our Instagram because it is very like weird and us. It's definitely something to check out. And don't be afraid to embrace technology and create excitement and genuineness around your brand. So obviously we're a tech company, so most of the stuff that we naturally create is about the product that we're hosting to our users. We don't create clothes ourselves, but so the example I can give you here will be product-led. So keep people updated on product updates, but we tend to do this in a fun way. We recently just launched like a news show, which is quite fun. You can see this on our YouTube channel and Instagram, where we get people within our London office to kind of like give a fun update, whether it be like the events we're hosting, product updates, yeah, like just what we've been up to, basically. And I think it's a fun way to give your brand a personality, whilst sometimes talking about the not so fun things. Be consistent with your mission. As I said before, ours is empowering creative minds, so we generally only work with creatives and only promote creative people. Be human, take things offline. We actually, this year, have launched actual physical shop spaces in New York and LA. These are primarily for hosting to our sellers, so we let them take over the space. It's for brands to take over the space. We do things with musicians, like listening shows, and it's kind of like that's where the youth culture comes part of it. With fashion comes music, with music becomes food, and it's kind of a place to take that networking that they're doing on the app offline and get them to meet in person and like do something that's not just about buying and selling, and maybe create something or launch a brand. And we also have a studio space for them so they can come and take photos, etc. But yeah, so like keeping to our mission and telling a story is important this way. And then involving your audience and getting them used to your product. So I think like we often, when we do campaigns with influencers, for example, we'll get them to talk about the app or like show screenshots of people using the app so it becomes natural. Our CEO actually copied kind of like the layout with very early days that it was literally like Instagram, but it would have a buy button just so that it was something natural for them to use. It was a bit cheeky, but that's what he did. So here's just an interesting way of how we launched a new product feature. We, about a year and a half ago, launched that when you are listing, part of our listing flow, when you're selling something, you can now video the product you're selling. Now lots of people do have this, but at the time we were one of the only ones. And I think a big thing about talking about anything like product related is to have video and make it fun, because in all honesty, product updates aren't the most exciting thing. So we launched this across our social channels, and we did paid ads, I think across YouTube as well with this video. So here is the video. It's just a fun way of showing product updates. Okay, that's it. That was a fun project to work on because we literally filmed that content in 2 days. We flew out to LA, filmed all our US sellers using the app, and then flew back to London and did 1 day of filming in London as well. So very hectic, but it worked out well. So yeah, create something that means something. Gen Z want to make a difference. They are extremely plugged in and hyper-aware of everything. They are also expertly adept at blocking out marketing noise. We kind of hit on that before, that, you know, be authentic to yourself, because it's really easy to see if you're not. How to do that? Align your brand to a greater purpose with a narrative that captures the attention and imaginations of this up-and-coming demographic. We kind of do this by, like I said, telling stories about the products, or yeah, like a big movement for 2019 for us is the circulation of like selling and buying, and like that we're reselling up. And then also sustainability is a big thing for us next year, because obviously where people are selling maybe pre-owned items, this is like making it's just working out better for sustainability. So yeah, telling a story, so always sticking to the mission, as I said, is important, like sharing your brand, sharing the story of your brand. We often get our founder to talk at events, or I'll come and talk, because obviously we built it together, and then share something meaningful. So, align yourself to maybe, I don't know, like politically or the sustainable side, or, whatever you're working on. I think it's good to stand for something. So here is just something we actually only did 2 weeks ago. We worked with a music company called NTS Radio, and we also worked with an archival photography company, because one of the pushes that we wanted to make at the end of this year was kind of educating our users and Gen Z on where the product comes from, and a lot of the stuff that we have on the app is vintage, so really like making a note to them of like where, that t-shirt that you're wearing that you just bought on the app was actually an original 80s t-shirt we chose to look at subcultures for this. So we actually looked at 80s rave culture. So we went out and worked with the original photographers, the original designers that were part of this generation, and created a whole exhibition space where we exhibited originals like clothing from that era, and then they were available to buy on the app. And we also worked with up-and-coming DJs. I think I said it here, Dennis Salter, who is a techno kind of house DJ. And then we also, at the end of this event, the next day, dropped 6 items that people could buy the items for a very low price to what they were worth. We also made a documentary film where we spoke to the photographers, the DJs, the people that hosted illegal raves back in the UK in the 80s, just to have like this whole educational side and, to build an understanding of where the products come from. Also, this is just an example of the event flyer we made and just making it interactive. This went out on Instagram stories, and people could swipe up to RSVP. But we have, as I said before, noticed that especially event invites or anything campaign related, we do always try and make interactive or a video. I do have the video of the documentary, but I think I'm going to not show it to you today. You can see it on our YouTube because I'm just a bit conscious of time. But yeah, that's it. Oh, I was about to put it on. Thank you, and that's it. Thank you. I need to go on this one now. I think there's a question and answer. I just have to put this on.
Thank you, Octavia. So your sharing is really inspiring, particularly for the case like Betsy and Bella want.
Yeah.
The relationship you more like develop with your audience users really more like a surprise to me.
Yeah.
So my question is, because Depop was founded in 2011 and only about I think 6 or 7 years kind of history. So. A lot of companies really want to attract attention of the younger generation, but they also facing dilemma because when the company targets young audience will grow up. And it's really hard to decide you want to grow within or involve your company colleague, or you stay with the next generation, younger generation. So what, I think since you are with the company from the very early stage, so I believe there are also some discussion about that within the company. So what's the Depop next step?
I think the next step is that we are continuing. I think where we've grown, we've got a whole team, as I said, devoted to, we've got 2 teams, one devoted to finding up-and-coming sellers, and then one team devoted to finding up-and-coming influencers. And I think that's when it's important to work with micro-influencers that are local to what you're talking about or for whatever campaign you're using. So I think that's still a huge, from day one that was part of our marketing structure and strategy, and even now that's still something that we're still doing, but it's just finding people consistently, and that's why we have whole teams now dedicated to finding these people. And that's where I think as well it works well to work with them on creating content that works for them, rather than just getting them to talk about Depop and it being logoed all the time and like I sell. We don't ever get them to say I sell on the app. It's always something way more interesting and natural for them. They might mention Depop and that they have a profile, but I think you have to grow with them, and that's why I think a huge point is getting them to create content with you rather than you pitching them an idea. Get them to work with you, and also finding those micro people. I'm talking like we don't actually really work with anyone anymore that has probably over 150,000, just because we've noticed it's way more engaging and beneficial to be talking to those smaller subcultures and smaller communities rather than going to someone with 1 million subscribers, because a lot of those people are general. They just follow them because they've heard of them. They're not actually interested in their day-to-day and what they're building and creating themselves. So I think when you're working with smaller people, it like gives a more interesting and unique story, and it's more genuine, so people are more likely to then come on to us as a second part and download the app or use the app. I hope that made sense.
Hi, this is Cha. Thank you for sharing about especially the influencer that diagram. It's very interesting. A few questions, very straightforward. Because you mentioned about there's no call to action, but you also also create campaign to encourage purchase. So is there any conflict between these two, your comments? The second question is, how do you pick up and grow up your influencer? What's the criteria so they can become a big V in other like IG or Instagram? And the third question is, because you use the personal bios, okay? Bio, right? Personal bio to kind of make your story. So do you get the permission from them, and how far you will use them? So some of a very straightforward question. Thank you.
Yeah. Sorry, can you say the first one again?
Oh, sorry. The first one is because you don't encourage call to action, but in the later on you create a campaign that encourage purchase.
Yeah.
I think there's a conflict there.
Yeah.
So how do you elaborate this?
So sorry, I only meant no call to action in physical Instagram posts. With the one that we got the influencers to share, it was more about them and their bio and maybe visiting their shop. It was nothing in the description said go and buy stuff from my store. It was literally like, I'm using Depop, check me out. But we again got them to write that, and it was something. Sometimes it said go shop, sometimes it didn't. But I would say, if you do use a call to action, use Instagram stories, just because it's a more natural way of getting someone onto your product, or for our example, onto our app, because you can have a swipe up. Or in a physical Instagram post, you have to go link in bio, or it basically the traffic doesn't go so well, because obviously they've got to click off the post, go into your bio, click into the bio, then they're taken outside of Instagram, which they probably want to stay in Instagram. So I think Instagram stories has worked so much better for us to be like, shop this item, go to this event, just because it's a more holistic journey. Sorry, what was your second question?
How do you pick up and grow your internal celebrities? Influencers.
Yeah, so we have a data system now where we can see who is selling the most. So we tend to weekly, as I said, we have a team who's dedicated to nurturing our sellers. So I think the way we do it naturally is aesthetically, like looking at people, seeing the people. Usually they're the wildest, like style-wise. Same as like how influencers become popular anyways. They're usually, especially fashion focused, like people follow people because they're interested in their style. We can kind of see that through the app from their sales and their following naturally. But someone like Internet Girl, as I said before, she was already doing well on the app when we decided to work with her. So, but also aesthetically, she was kind of in line with what we were already doing. So we tend to pick people that way. And then from then on, just start doing things like talking about them ourselves. We have like a section now on the app where we can suggest sellers to people. So usually we change this every 2 weeks. So these are the kind of people that we're suggesting for people to follow that we think style's great. And that's kind of how it starts. From there, Internet Girl was actually crazy. I think she was just so dedicated to our product, and so in all her communications external, I think people were obsessed with her style and the way she styled things, so it was a natural progression for her to start talking about her style on social media. But then she always obviously links back to Depop because that's her business.
Personal bio.
Yeah, so the personal bios, this was like a risk that we took. And I think we've never done traditional advertising before. And to be honest, I don't think it works so well for Generation Z. It didn't bring so many new customers. It was more just brand awareness for our existing customers. So I wouldn't recommend Gen Z really doing traditional advertising, like posters and ads. But we chose to work with the bios just because I think it builds intrigue, and instead of being like, I mean, the obvious way for us to advertise traditionally would be, we are an app, we are a place to create a shop where you can buy and sell, but it's kind of boring. And as I said before, we're a place to like host these creative people, and I think like we're always up for being a bit strange, and so like we wanted to highlight them rather than highlight our product, because by highlighting them, people come to our product anyway. I know that's not always the case for every product, though.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Hi, my question is counterfeit a problem for you? Because I know like platform like the RealReal, they have to tackle this kind of problem. So, and how will you tackle this problem if there's?
Yeah, I think for any marketplace, like even, you know, walking around Soho, there's shops selling counterfeit. So counterfeit is a problem everywhere. We are in touch with brands like Burberry, Chanel, and they actually have people that are actively checking the products that are uploaded. And we also have an internal team that deals with counterfeit items. We can't guarantee that, like, because we don't hold the physical item. I don't know if that's what RealReal does, but somewhere in the UK, like Vestiaire, they get the item sent to them to then check its authenticity. But we can guarantee that if the item were to arrive and it is not real, that you do get your money back. So I think counterfeit is a problem anywhere. I think that's something that we want to push this year, actually, is educating on designer items. But we only ever feature and talk about sellers when we know they're 100% authentic. So we never promote products that are like fake. That all?
就像是我们台湾现在也有关心那种社会政治的那种慈善基金会，像比如说慈济，他们有用回收的资源做出服饰。那幸福台湾它也是台湾的另外一个品牌，可是它是用那种美国的高科技的做成的那个科技的品牌的服饰，它是功能性的服饰，跟我这些是有名的啦。不过像我们台湾渐渐有一些文创的、有个性品牌的服饰，他们就是虽然没有打出名声，但是他们的有些文创的经纪人帮他们的品牌一个一个就是结合起来，然后有个平台让他们在百货或是说一些店面，让他们有自己的实体店面出去做展售。那如果像你们比较关心的话，像是文创比较是适合跟你们合作，还是像台湾的那种就是NIT 那种天然的品牌，或是就是回收资源的那种科技的品牌，这种大公司，你们会适合想要去跟大公司合作，还是会去找台湾这种小品牌的公司合作？
Okay. I can't hear anything. I can't hear anything. Is it not on?
好吗？
I'm ready. I'll just see what you say.
请问有听到吗？有。
Yeah, I can hear. Yeah, I can hear.
像台湾就是有幸福台湾，他们是用美国的这个高科技机器做那个功能性的衣服。那像台湾的慈济，它是用慈济基金会的那个他们是用资源回收的材料做出高科技的衣服。像这样的品牌，他们都是说就是有一些说是比较高科技，慈济是说他们是有那个关心社会，像你们也有跟我说，你们刚刚讲的说政治的，有些那种Depop会关心的议题，可是你们也会找寻像比如说像是一些网络上的那些网红自己做的品牌，我们台湾现在也有一些文创业者。自己有跟那个文创经纪人，就是把他们的品牌集结在一起，然后有个平台做展现。那像你们会去找，如果要跟台湾合作的话，会去找像是这种平台的那种文创业者，还是说大公司的那种科技仿料的服装公司呢？问一下。
Okay. When you say about targeting for smaller startups, I'm guessing, are you talking about me working with them or as Depop or you as your brand? Sorry. Is she gonna?
像台湾现在有一些文创业者，就是他们的品牌有跟文创经纪人，就是通过他们的挖掘。把他们的东西有个平台做实体店面的展售，如果像他们这种展售的商品，你们会比较有兴趣，还是像我们台湾这种大公司，像幸福台湾，它是高科技做出来的衣服，那慈济基金会他们是用回收的资源材料做出来的科技衣服，这两间都是大公司，那这两间大公司跟我们台湾的文创。你们会哪个比较有兴趣？这样子。
I think, well, Depop is a place where anyone can open a shop. So, to touch on your points, that what would we prefer? I think. As a brand, the smaller brands that are sustainable work more in line with our mission, but that's not to say that we wouldn't work with bigger brands. I think the key to Depop is that we work with a variation of brands from like Converse, Nike, and then we daily work with smaller brands who are, very, very small in the early stages and promoting them because we see either an aesthetic association or that we have the similar mission of sustainability, for example. So I would always use brands as you would use influencers. So working with big and small, working with people who, I think if your message is sustainability, I think that our main message is creativity. So we're looking for small creators and creators on a larger scale that are going to produce something creative. But if your mission is sustainability, then that should be something that you always stick to, whether it be a big brand with older technologies of fabrics and smaller brands who are working on new technologies for fabrics. As long as that one line of sustainability is fine, I think, and together, I think that's where you'll grow in the right direction. I think it wouldn't work if you were to work with someone who wasn't sustainable for you. I hope that answers your question. Oh, apparently we have to do one more question, so sorry if I didn't get to answer it.
好，谢谢你的分享。那我只是好奇说，目前你们市场的话，主要就是在美国跟欧洲那边嘛。那有没有计划说未来会来到亚洲？可能像日本，其实非常适合这种以个人特色做服装一个 trend 的形成。那像日本或者是台湾或者香港，有没有未来这样的计划？谢谢。
Yes, we do. We actually, anyone can open the app. You could open a shop here in Taiwan today if you wanted to. We have actually quite a lot of people in Japan who have already opened a shop. It's not our biggest market, but that's not to say that we're not there. I think it's something we're definitely looking at in 2019 is coming to Australia and Asia. But I think the way your experience today won't be the same as the experience in Europe. But that's not to say that it won't be in a year's time. I think obviously most of our app is about activity and people uploading, and so therefore that you're going to see more change the more people that are on there. But at the moment, currently, we will be pushing where the audience isn't so big. You will see Japanese or sellers from China or sellers from Taiwan, but you'll also see people from the UK and US, so that we keep it a similar experience. But and we'll only push people to you that ship worldwide, so it's going to be a similar experience, but it's not the experience that maybe is as localized as it is in our bigger markets. And thank you. Thank you for having me. Oh, we can have another question. You keep teasing me. Hello.
谢谢老师的分享。我就想问一个问题，就是我想请问一下你们的平台的销售方卖家，他是采用一种怎样的销售模式，以及他是怎样跟消费者沟通的？
Okay, so as I said in the presentation, but maybe if you haven't seen the app, it is quite hard to tell. The layout of our app is a lot like Instagram. So we have a discovery page, as Instagram does, where we push items. So often, if your item is in line with our aesthetic or it's shot in the right way, which we do tell you how to do this when you join, then your item will be pushed to this page. We also have a page where we promote sellers that we also like. We have many categories, whether that be women's wear, men's wear, or just our personal preference that we're liking that week. Then we also have a sharing option. As I said, it's very like a social marketplace, so we do link it to your Instagram account. So you have the option to, when you list things to buy and sell, you can also share this on your Instagram stories or an actual physical post to your own following. And then we also have an activity feed where if people follow you, much like Instagram, your post or your item will come up in their feed. So it very much is like Instagram in the way it works to find things and search for people. And obviously we have a search function where you can filter through items, you can filter through categories. So we do, when a seller is creating an actual business, we do educate them on how to write listings, because this is a lot to do with search. And that's why we try to push people to have an aesthetic, much like you would if you were a brand yourself. So whether that's using the same background to sell your items, the same model, maybe like the same style that you write in. I think if you set yourself as a brand, like people are more likely to follow you. Also, much like social media, the more active you are on it, the more you sell, because obviously the more you're appearing on the activity feed, the discovery feed, and people will keep coming back to your shop to see what you're uploading. Our top sellers who sell, I think, at least 30 items a day minimum, they're uploading about 50, 60 items a day to their shop. Okay. Now what? Oh, another one. Yes.
现在也有不好意思，在我住的地方，现在也有很多像文创业者，刚刚提到他们是用次文化，有用日本的材料，也有进欧美的材料做成他们的文创用品，或是自己用相关的这些材料，自己了解的做出一些就是类似像次文化的那些就是文创产品。像这样的产品，如果在你们的国外的美国那边的平台，台湾这边现在所做的产品文创这些东西，会引起你们的关注跟兴趣吗？ 或是你们会跟我们台湾这边有进一步的那些资讯或合作呢？
Yes, we do actually. Now we've opened the physical spaces, and we usually live stream stuff like this. We do actually provide courses to opening shops or sessions on how to take photos, even finances, because obviously where our audience is so young, how to pay taxes, etc. So we do provide group sessions, not usually one-on-one, but obviously if you got in touch, we could probably sort something out. And then to answer your question about it being unique to a certain subculture and unique items and would people be interested, I think like that would be more about you finding that community on there than us being able to just naturally give you that community. I'm not 100% sure what the product is you're selling, but it sounds really interesting, like sustainable clothing and fabrics. I would, search for other companies that are doing the same thing on Depop, and even searching something like sustainable fabric, and then you could see who else is on there and talking to them. And then also I think whilst talking to your community that you're selling on somewhere like Depop will naturally make them come there and see you. And then if your photos are good, if you have a good product, then we'll most likely be promoting you. Okay. I think that's it now. Thank you so much for having me.